All right, then if you would please bring up your add or edit president.java file. All right, and up at the top, we're going to have to put in our two buttons. So here, button btn save and button btn cancel. As always, Alt-Enter. Come on, Alt-Enter. Import the class. All right. Then come in here and again, get references to widgets. And btn save equals find view by ID r.id.btn save. Oops. Try that again. And btn cancel equals find view by ID r.id.btn cancel. Okay. Now we're going to set up a click listener for each one of these, but they're both going to do the same thing. Whether you click OK or whether you click cancel, we just want you to go back to the main page. Are you with me? All right. Now we could just sit there and write the same code in twice, but it's going to be the exact same code, so we might as well make a method. All right, so we'll do that in just a second. But first, let's set up both on click listeners. So btn save dot set on click listener new v. So I'm just going to put in that one, and I'm going to very quickly just put in the other one, btn cancel dot set on click listener new v. So I've got both those in there. And again, what I want to do in both cases is the same thing. So I think we only have to write it once. Okay? So in other words, we want to do this, the same kind of thing we just did. So I can come over here to the activity main.java file or main activity.java file, and I can just grab this intent code right here, right? So if you don't feel like typing, just grab it and put it in. All right? And then come back to here. Now I can just paste that in. I'm going to have to change this. This won't be main activity.this. This will be the other one, the add or edit present activity.this, and we want to go back to main activity.class. All right, and we want to do the exact same thing going, in this one. We probably could just go in and write a single method to do that, as opposed to writing it twice. I don't know, I'm just thinking about it. It's only 2 lines, so it's 4 lines as opposed to 2. Is that big a thing? You know what I'm saying? Now, what I'd like both of you to do, because I still have my errors, I'd like you both to save yours and see now if you can go back and forth between each page. And while you're doing that, I'm going to see if I can figure out these darn stupid few errors that I've still got on mine. Okay, so this is my URL text view. Well, that fixed one of them. And the whole thing is because I went back and renamed all this stuff and I just goofed it up for myself. So let me save mine as well and run it. It should look better. It still might be a little goofed up, but we'll see. Are you both able to jump back and forth between? Okay, you are. Can you?
No, I made a typo, so I had to go back.
Okay. Save all. All right. What am I missing here? All right, so there's mine. For some reason, my first name is goofed up right here, and you can see this, so I'll have to move these over a little. But it's looking a lot better than it did. And I can go back, just like I said, can you guys go back? Okay? All right. So the next thing we're going to do is, maybe for the first time in a while, we're going to do something very Java-ish. And what I mean is, we're going to take all the information for our presidents, and we're going to put that into its own class. So we're going to create our own class called president. All right, so let's do that right now. Hopefully you remember how to do this, but you take your mouse and again put it right here where it says edit, etc. Right mouse click, new Java class. Make sure class is selected and not interface, enum, or annotation, and type in the word president. Hit enter. And if it looks like this, you did it right. Okay. We're going to have private, how did I set that up? Int ID, private, string, first name, private, string, last name, private, string, served, and private, string, URL. What does it? Oh, big S. In fact, let's call it image URL. Sometimes you run into weird stuff if you use the word URL. You may have noticed that, you may not have, but I'm going to change that to image URL. Okay? All right. Now, you may or may not know this. Remember how in the past we've right mouse clicked, what is it? We went to code. Is it code? The one that has generate on it. Where was that? Edit, whatever one of these has generate. We can right mouse click where we are right now. We could go and we could write our own constructor. So we could write public president, and then we could have like, int and all this stuff that's in there, right? And then we could say this dot something equals, etc. We could do that, but we don't even have to. We can right mouse click where we are right here. choose generate, and we've done getters and setters, but the top one there says constructor. See that? So I choose constructor and it says, which fields do you want to put in there? We want all of them. So click OK, and boom, there's our constructor. Is that a little easier? I think it is. You may or may not agree.
Which one did you type up the generate?
I right mouse clicked, chose generate, and just constructor, the top one right there. And I picked all fields. You may or may not remember, but the other thing we put into our Java class are getters and setters, right? So again, right mouse click on here, choose generate, choose getter and setter, highlight all of them, click OK. We've now got our getters and our setters, and we're even going to do one more thing in here. Okay, and this is going to be later when we want to do some debugging. So I'm asking, do you both have your constructor? Do you both have your getters and setters for all of your fields? All right, then we could put this on the bottom. It's totally fine. I'll just put it down here. One more time. So I'm down at the very bottom, right before my final curly brace. I'm again going to right mouse click. And again, I'm going to choose generate. And this time, I'm going to use the toString method. So I'm going to click toString. And again, I want everything. It's all chosen. I click OK. Kind of nice. It wrote a whole toString method for me right there. So we got that whole class. And to my knowledge, it's about almost 70 lines long when you look at it. And we typed in 5 of them. And the other 63 or so lines were automatically generated for us, right? All right. Not that that's a really big thing, but I mean, just it's kind of a nice thing. So let's do a file, save all. And I don't think we're going to use presidents for a while, but I'm just looking, like I said, through my notes here. Yeah. All right. Let's go back to our main activity.java file. All right. So we're right here underneath our button that we added. Now we're going to put in the list that we're going to use. This is going to be the thing that's going to hold all of the presidents. Okay. Now we can call it whatever we want, but I think I'm going to call it president list because it's a list of presidents. Okay. So a list, president. Did you notice this? Look on the screen, please. So as soon as I type, as soon as I type in list and I put in this and I put in a P, it recognizes president. Okay? I mean, that's something that we put in. So it recognizes the president class. Does that make sense to you? All right. So I'm just going to grab that one and I'm going to say president list is equal to new array list. An array list of what? Presidents. Now, again, it's giving me this error that we oftentimes get, so Alt-Enter and import the class. Questions on that? Again, the difference between an array and an array list is if we had an array, it would work right now, but we couldn't have a 47th president. Or we'd have to make the array real big and be able to keep adding to it. You understand what I'm saying? All right. Now, we're not going to want to remove any presidents because if we have presidents, they're already in there, right? You know what I'm saying? But I think this is the best way of doing it. You may agree, you may not agree. Either way is fine. All right. So looking in here, let's see. So we've got our find view by ID, etc. We've got our on-click listener. But you know what else we want to do? Is we want to come in and we want to, looking at this just looks funky to me. I don't know why. We want to be able to fill the list of our presidents. All right. We want to be able to grab that file that I gave you and fill it up. Does that make sense? All right. So I'm just going to call, you can call it whatever you want. But what we're going to do here is we're going to construct our presidents list. Does that make sense? So guess what? I'm going to call mine construct presidents list. All right. And of course I get that error because it's not created yet. Now, you probably know this, but if I take my mouse and put it on there, I can choose to go down here, and if you look on the screen here, if I click right there, it created it for me. You see, you can do that. And it's basically, it's something they kind of ripped off from Visual Studio, all right? Or maybe if they were first, Visual Studio ripped it off from them. I don't know. All right. Now, what I want you to do is this, and it's going to look a little funky for a while. I'm just warning you, all right? Is go down here, so we got this blank line here. Then go to the file that I gave you, which is this file right here. Now, it looks real nice on the screen right now because I tried to line everything up. Yours might not be so pretty. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm going to grab all of it here, copy it to the clipboard, and I'm going to paste it in. All right, now I got to see if we can figure out what it doesn't like here, but that's no biggie. Expected 5 arguments and it found 4. Well, guess what? Okay, we got a first name, got an ID. Oh, that's okay. That's what's wrong with it. Okay, we're gonna have to. This will work fine. Take this whole thing we just made and get rid of it. We're gonna have to make one change, and it'll work after that. Okay. I screwed up, but actually, believe it or not, in a good way. Go back to this file that you've got right here. We don't have the ID in there right now. You see what I'm saying? So I'm sorry, it's going to take a second, but we got to put in 0, space, 1, space, all the way down. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's going to take a couple minutes, but let's just go do that, okay? And I'm doing the same thing as you. I guess when I copied that over, I forgot to put in the ID. Make sure you put commas afterwards. I just noticed I put a period after one of them. That would make it do weird stuff at a minimum. It won't work though if you do that. Also make sure you start it with 0 and not with 1, because remember, it's an array list. Oh, here's the big reveal. So, okay, I've got no errors. See that? With some of these, just so you know, if you look up on the screen here for a second, I don't know why, but I left the H in there for William H. Harrison. If you don't want that, just remove it. And also, you know, the two Bushes, the senior was George H.W. and the junior was W. That's why I put him in like that. All right, if you don't like that, you can change it around if you want to. That's no biggie. All right. Now, what we have to do is we have to add this to our array list. So I'm going to show you 3 ways of doing it. Don't do any of these, but I want to wait. Tell me when yours is done and it works. Did you paste yours in? Or does it work, Angie? Okay. Keegan, you still working on it? Okay. Okay. Now, don't do this. Like I said, I'm going to show you 3 ways. We could do this. We could say president list dot add. I think it's dot add. Is it date? Add. And then we could say P0. The problem with doing that is we got to do that 45 times, 46 times. And that's, even with copy and paste, that's going to take a while to make changes. You can do it, and it'll work, because I tried it all 3 ways, and it'll work. All right. Then we can also do this. And I should say, these are the first 2 ways. I didn't try it the 3rd way, the way we're going to do it, but I think it should work just fine. We're going to look. All right. Let's see. You can say president list dot add all. But then you've got to say P0, comma, P1, etc. So we'd have to put in 46 of those. Does that make sense? All right. I'm going to see, let me see if I get any errors or not doing this, but I'm going to come in and try to do a for loop. Int LCV equals 0, LCV less than president list dot, what is it? Size, is it? I don't remember. Size? No, it's for a list. That's for an array, it's length. That's why I couldn't remember. So plus plus LCV, and I want to just see if we can do this. All right. Oh, crud, I don't think this is going to work. See, this is a list, and I want to treat it like an array. See, what I want to do is I want to say this. President list dot add, and I want to say here P LCV, but P is not an array. Do you understand what I'm saying? I thought we'd be able to do it that way. There might be some kind of a conversion thing. I'm not sure. So for now, at least, we're going to do it. I hate doing this, but president list dot add all add all, and then it's arrays dot as list. Okay, and we're going to say then inside of the parens P0, P1, we'll look at it when we get all done. P2, P3, P4. I'm just going to put about 10 of them on a row and then go down to the next row. Why doesn't it like here? I mean, I did this before and it worked just fine. Present list dot add all. Correct. Race dot as list. That's correct. Paren. Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. This is. I probably shouldn't tell you guys this. In fact, I didn't add something here. So see this thing where we've got our P0, etc. Put this on its own line. We're gonna get this error to go away right now. All right. So parenthesis, new president, bracket, get rid of this, make this a curly brace. Come on. We're going to get all of this to work. President, bracket, curly. Semicolon. All right, still not sure why that's not working. Oh, because we've got to add that file. That's fine. So I'm going to do this. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. All right. Equal, import class. All right. I'm just going to go down to 9. I know what I'm doing looks probably pretty weird, but it'll make sense in just a second. See how I copied all these? So now I can just go in and I can make it 10 and 20 and 30 and 40 and 11, 12, 13, 14, etc. You get the idea. Now I'm sure that you can go in and with what we just did as far as using it as an array, we probably could have done that and made this a lot slicker. Why am I getting an error here? Oh, because 45 was the last one. What was that? There. So why am I getting an error here? You don't need a paren there, right? Need one more. Need one for here. I thought that one went with this one. You got it. You're right. Okay. Hello. All right. Hopefully what that's going to do is eventually that's going to load up everything for us. Does that make sense? All right. Now, what we're going to look at next, because I've talked about this with you, but I want to show it to you, okay? I want you to come in up here, and after you've got your fill presidents list, we're going to add some stuff that you're probably going to want to either comment out or remove eventually. You with me? All right. So right after this, construct president list. You could do it above it. You could do it below it. It doesn't matter. But we're going to put in a log statement. So we're going to type in log.d tag on create, like that. Now don't worry, we'll get rid of all these errors. All right. But what we're going to do in just a minute, we've got a ton of code to write yet. But I'd like to see if those 46 presidents are being loaded. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we're going to write a log statement to see if indeed those are being loaded. All right. So the reason we're getting this error right now, there's two errors we're getting. If you look on the screen here, first one is we've got to take the mouse, put it here, do an Alt-Enter, and that got rid of one error. But it doesn't know what tag is. It has no idea. So come back up here where we've got our button. Put it above it or below it, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to put in private, static, final, string, tag, equal, and what is it? Well, it's our president's RecyclerView app. All right. It says the logging tag can be at most 23 characters, and we typed in 27. All right, I'm going to get rid of the word RecyclerView and just put in President's app, and the error goes away. Okay? All right. Now, let's see where we are. All right. So, right now we've got this log D right here, and it's fine. What we're doing right here is the equivalent of when we have our button doing this. It's not really a find view by ID, but it's the same kind of thing. But we want to actually put some code in there. All right. So let's see. Let's change this tag around a little bit. I mean, it's totally fine the way it is. All right, messages on create, that's okay, but we want to add, we want to show the stuff that we're logging. Does that make sense? So, comma, and we will put in here president list, but it doesn't understand that. We got to do a toString. Now, what does it look like? It's because that's not a comma. That's a plus sign. Okay. Now, I want to go over this with you because this is going to look weird when we run it. All right. What it's going to do basically is it's going to take all 46 presidents and all their information, put it in one gigantic line, just so you know. All right. Because we asked for the entire president list toString. We're not really doing much formatting or anything on it. Does that make sense? So in just a second, we're going to run the program. When we run the program, play computer here. We're in Oncreate, right? It should call construct president list for president's list, okay? And that should come down there and do this. So it should fill up everything. Then we should immediately log it out. Now, could we do this as a toast? Yeah, but it would be one hairy butt toast. But I'll tell you what we can do as a toast. And let's do that. Let's do toast. And we're going to have to, again, get a reference to it. And remember, when you do a toast, it's a, what is it? Toast equal, is it toast dot make text? Yep, toast dot make text. And we're going to say here, this, and how about this? Total number of presidents in presidents, geez Louise, list is plus president list dot size. We'll know that this is working correctly. I'm not done yet. That's why I've got the error. we'll know that this is working correctly if two different things happen here. If we go down into our logcat and we can see this information, and if we get our toast. All right. Well, the reason that this isn't working right now is I need another comma here. Remember, it's length long, toast.length long, and then dot show. So do a file, save all, run the program. Don't worry about how it looks or anything else. This is fine. I'm not even going to look at this in here. But what I want to do is look on the bottom of the, or look on the screen, please. I want to get to the bottom of this. I want to bring up, look in here for logcat. There it is. And it's there, it's filling up. Okay. Somewhere in here, I should be able to check. I'm going to look for Oncreate. Okay. Can you see right here? Look on the screen. That's our information. See that? George Washington served, image URL, etc. Now, if I take my mouse and literally click end, it's not even getting to the end. But the point is, do you understand that the information is being loaded? Does that make sense to both of you? All right. Now, I'm going to recommend, just in case we run into any more problems, that we take all of this code that everything that we just put in there for the tag, comment that out. The log statement, comment that out. Just comment both those out. All right. We don't need them anymore. Okay. But we've got them if we want to bring them back in again. That's all I'm telling you. Okay? All right. Now, what you have to do, we're going to switch gears a little bit here, but I want you to understand this. So if you don't, please ask. But what you have to do when you are working with a RecyclerView is you have to let the system know. You have to let the system know, okay, I've got this RecyclerView here. What does each row that we're putting into the RecyclerView, what does it look like? Did you hear what I just said? We have to let it know, what does it look like? All right? And what I mean is, how is this laid out? How is this RecyclerView going to be laid out? That's what it needs to know. So what you have to do is you have to make a layout for the RecyclerView. So you've got to let Android know what it's going to look like. All right? So, let's see. Where was that? I think it was up here. So what I want you to do is this. Make sure that you're in your res folder. And if you have to, open it up so you can see layout. If I open up layout now, you don't have to, but you see what's in there? Those two XML files, right? You know what those are. I mean, you're cool with that, I think. But we got to add a new one. So we got to go back up where it says res, not on layout. I think we can do it there too. All right, we'll do it on layout. So right mouse click on the word layout, choose new, and the second one down says layout resource file. Can you see that? Choose that, and it's going to bring this up. Now we're going to describe what this is going to look like. Now, don't type this because I want to show you something. You may or may not remember, and I think maybe you were the one who was burnt on it this before, I don't remember, but I mentioned that if you create an image, you can't have capital letters in the name. Well, look what happens when I do this here. The same thing. All right. And what we want is this is going to be our layout for one president. Does that make sense? So we'll just call it one. Let's just run it all together. One president, like that. And it's saying, oh, it's going to be a constraint layout by default. The directory name is going to be layout, and that's where we got it anyway. That's what we'd want. And the source basically says that it lives inside a res. So in other words, we shouldn't have to change any of that other stuff that's in here. Does that make sense to you? All right. So just click OK. And guess what you just got? A brand new XML file that's now called onepresident.xml. This is where we're going to say what each president row should look like. Do you understand what I'm saying? All right. So let's start by grabbing an image view and just dragging it in. Now it says, what image do you want? We don't want to put any image in there. We're not going to, it's going to be replaced anyway. So just grab the avatar that's right here. It's totally fine. And click OK. All right. But now we've got to tell the rest of the stuff that we want in here. So we've got to let the system know exactly what each row should look like. And I'm asking you the question, does that make sense to both of you? All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, it's not that we have to do this, but I'm going to do this first, is I'm going to constrain this. No, in fact, I'm going to name it first. So let's call this IV for image view, president. That's the image view of our president. We could have called it, so in other words, we're going to fill in the URL, and the URL is going to go out to the internet, find the picture, and put it right here. Does that make sense to you? So I'm going to call that IV president. All right, so that's the first thing. Yes, I do want to change it, so I'll refactor it. And I'm going to constrain it. So I'm going to drag it up, and I'll make it go down about 8, and I'll drag it over. Oops, not like that. And again, I'll make it about 8. Now, when you go through and do yours, I would like yours to look as professional as you think you can make it, because I want this to be hopefully one of the things you want to put into your portfolio. So if you think 8's not enough, then tweak it a little bit. Play around with it. You know what I'm saying? All right. Then we're going to want to come in here, and this is just displaying data. Are you with me? It's just displaying data. All right. So I'm going to grab a bunch of text views. So this is going to be the first name. This is going to be the last name. This is going to be when they served. We don't have to do the URL. That's the picture that we have. Does that make sense to both of you? Now, if you don't like it the way I'm doing it right now, you could put the first name on one line, the last name on another line. Are you with me? But since these are text views, and they're going to be fairly small, all right, you can do it whatever way you want is what I'm saying, okay? So I'm going to come in, and I'm first going to constrain this to the top and bring it down 8 pixels. I'm going to do this one up to the top, and I'm going to bring it down and constrain it to 8 pixels. I'm just starting to do my constraints. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to push it to here. All right, and I'm going to say that I want it, I'm going to, maybe 16, okay? Not 16 there, I'm sorry. That's 8, 16 right here. There. All right, then I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to bring it over there, and then bring it back. I don't know how many. 64? That's not too bad. Okay? I wish these were both a little bit bigger. They don't have to be, but I want them to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to call this one kind of what we called them before, okay? So TV first name, all right? And it says that already exists. Oh, it already exists in here. Okay, so that I can't do that. So I got to call it something other than TV first name. It is a text view and it's the first name. Okay, so I'm going to call this TV RV first name, because it's in the recycler view. So TV RV first name, and refactor it. And then this one will be TV RV last name. So I've got TV RV first name, TV RV last name, and this, which I got to still constrain, so I'm going to do that right now. And I'll make that 16 like I did the other one. And I'll constrain that to here. Whoops. And I'll bring that down. I don't know how many. 24? No, 32. Okay. So I'm going to have my first name, I'm going to have my last name, and I'm going to have when they served. Does all that make sense? It may end up looking bad. I might have to move it around later. I don't really care right now. Okay. All right. Then what I want to do is I want a line between each one of these. So I have renamed this, I have renamed this, I have renamed this, I have renamed this. Now I'm getting those errors here because it says I don't have a content description for the image, and the other ones it says I haven't hard-coded that stuff in. You can do that if you want to. You can even use the ones that we have, the first name and last name if you want to do that. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. All right, it's fine. All right. Let's see. Now I got to remember where this is. Helpers. All right, I'm going to search in here. I want to find a horizontal separator. Let's see, all results 6. And it's a divider. See this? So I searched for horizontal because I couldn't remember what it was called. And I'm going to just drop that, plop that in here. And I want it to take up the entire thing here. And that's not going to do it. That's just going to center it. All right. So rather than wrap content, let's see. I'm not going to have any constraints in there. Let me get rid of my constraints. I don't know if I match parent. It's not doing that either. So let's see. I don't know if match parent is right or not. You see that? I put match parent in here for the width because I wanted it to stretch the entire way. I didn't want to put it in for the height because I don't want it to be real huge. But so what this means is for every president, this should be their picture. This should be their first name. This should be their last name. This should be when they served. Does all that make sense? All right. And I'm looking at this. The only thing I don't like is I want this to be moved over further because otherwise there's a big gap between the first name and the last name. So I'm going to try to double that, make it 128. Now it's too much. So how about around 96? I like the way that looks better. Now, again, by no means is this perfect, but it's getting there. How's that? All right. We're only going to do one more thing today, and then we're going to pick it up tomorrow. All right. So I want us to go out to, let's see. It's not the one I want. I think it is at least. Nope. Let's see. That's what I want. Okay. You can either go out there if you want to, or you can just watch what I'm going to do. But I'm going to show you what the URL is. So if you do want to go out there, you can. I'm going to have to cut down the size. So you can go out here if you want to. And again, if you don't want to, just watch what I'm going to do. Because right now we're to where we're going to be setting up our recycler view. And if you can imagine, again, this is kind of like a puzzle. What the recycler view is attempting to do is to allow us to take the pieces that are Android and the pieces that are recycler view and allow them to talk to one another, for lack of better words. Okay, so as we look through this, I'm not going to read a lick to you, but I do want you to see a couple things in here. All right, the first thing is, this is most of the code. We'll be able to use it almost verbatim and just plop it into our program, okay? But when you look in here, we're going to have to create a new class. See that? And then plop this in. Now, we could change the names, but I'm just going to try to see if we can keep them all the way they are. You typically wouldn't call it custom adapter. We'd call it something like RecyclerView adapter or President's adapter. Are you with me? But I'm just going to see, we're going to see how much of this we can leave in here. All right, but I'm going to not spend a lot of time, but right now spend a couple minutes and try to explain to you what's happening in here. Are you with me now? Okay. All right. When we come in and we create this, there's a bunch of stuff that you have to set up. This is, for lack of better words, some people would call this boilerplate code. In other words, it's just stuff you got to put in. Sorry, but it's stuff you got to put in. All right. And one of the big things in here is you've got to include what's called a view holder. And guess what? That's what's going to hold the view. And what's the view? That's the thing we just made. Okay? When you put that in, we're actually going to have inside of our class, because we've not done this before, we're going to add another class. That's called an inner class. A class within a class. Some programming languages do not allow you to do that. Java does. So we are going to have the view holder class inside of the custom adapter class. All right. So we will actually, when we plop this code in, we will first have to create a new, and maybe we won't call it, because I don't really like custom adapter. Maybe we'll just call ours either President adapter or RecyclerView adapter. All right. But then we'll plop almost all of this in. When we do this and we let it know that we're using a view holder, it's going to start giving us errors. One of the errors it's going to give us is when we take our mouse and we put it like where this error is and we right mouse click, it's going to say, if you want to make a view holder, you've got to have 3 different methods that you've got to put in. And the order in which you put these in doesn't matter that much, but you need an onCreate view holder for when the view holder is made. You need an onBind view holder when you kind of glue it to the rest of the program. And you need to get item count, which just tells it how big it is. That one's pretty easy because that one for us is going to be president list.size. Make sense? All right. And that's literally all we're going to have to put in there. But we're going to have to add quite a bit of code in here and quite a bit of code in there. And I don't think 2:30 is a real great time to start doing that. So my goal is by tomorrow, we'll put that in. All right. After we put that in, I want to, at a minimum, by this time tomorrow, is have it so we can run it, and our first page will be done. Okay. Then what we have to do after the first page is done is we have to add a little bit more code onto the first page and put in a long click listener. So when we long click, that's going to bring up the other one for us. All right. Not clicking that add one, not just doing that. But if we want to be able to take a certain president and look at their information, maybe we made a mistake on George Bush. So we long click on Bush, okay, and that's going to bring up the other screen, and it's going to have Bush's stuff in it. Does that make sense? But what it's going to have in it for Bush's stuff is it's going to allow us, if we want to, it's going to allow us to do some editing. So it's basically going to be bringing up this thing so we can go in and make changes. Does that make sense? All right. Why? Because otherwise, think about this. We'd have to remember all those IDs. Okay, quick. I'll give you $100 if in 3 seconds you can tell me William what President William Henry Harrison was? You know what I'm saying? I have no idea. And unless you're one of those people who memorizes stuff like that, you probably wouldn't know either. But this will be a much easier way for us to go through and do that. Does that make sense? Now, one thing that I think we should do is we made this, and actually, rather than making that a text view, we at least possibly should have made that, I'm thinking about this now. Remember, this is going to either add a new president or it's going to allow us to edit a president. Are you with me? Okay. But I was thinking about this before. Right now, it's a text view. I can go in and change the number for any president, and I shouldn't be allowed to do that. So I could go to the set editable, and I could make it false. And that would work just fine. I could do that. All right. The problem is, if we want to create a new president from here, if we wanted to do that, now we can't do it this way anymore. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because that field is not editable. But I think we can probably program that. I'm not sure exactly what the programming would be, but we could check and see how you got there. All I'm saying is this field is an important field. It's kind of like the primary key for the presidents. So if we add a new one, whoever comes after Biden would be what? President 47. Makes sense? Because he's the 46th. But he would be he or she would be number 46 in our president list. All right? So if we're putting in a new president, we want to be able to edit this. If we're not putting in a new president, we don't want to be able to edit this. Okay? And that's one of the things that we're going to look at. The other thing I want to look at for tomorrow is we did this, and then we did this. And to be honest with you, this was a bigger pain in the behind than this was. All right. The good news for you is you have this already. You had to put the numbers in, but you had this already. All right. But I still think there's a way with using this arrays as list. I'm still wondering if we can go in there and use this in a for loop and fill it like that. All right. And I'm going to try to look for that. If I remember to do that, I'm going to try to look for that tomorrow. We're starting a brand new program. We're going to try to actually build something in the C# class tomorrow. And that class has just been, pause here.